Childhood trauma can leave a kind of hollowness in your perceptions of other people. You can't read them very well, and you don't really know your own feelings very well either, not in the early stages of healing anyway. So you find yourself making friendships and commitments to other people based on very weird reasons. Easy to see from the outside maybe, but that take you a long time to see. Really, you won't until something really painful happens. And I've got a letter today from someone I'll call Fiona, and she's got all the markers of trauma that can lead to hollow relationships. So in this letter, she talks a little bit about what happened to her as a child, which I think is relevant to the thing that she's struggling with right now. So here's what she says. Hello, Fairy. Thank you for your videos. They really help. I've come a long way. I've been a victim of sexual abuse as a child. I made a lot of wrong turns, bad relationships, allowed others to treat me badly, eating disorders, and self-sabotage. The works. After years of working on myself, I now have a career I love and have found a healthy relationship. Yay! I have a friend who's been my friend since we were 15. From watching one of your videos, I think she may be codependent because of something you said about being hurt by a friend's false concern. It really rang home with me. I feel this friend doesn't know her place with me and feels it's okay to give her input on things that are not her business. What's worse is, I never stand up for myself. Okay. So recently she asked me to be her bridesmaid. I didn't really want to, as I feel we aren't close. She's always saying we are best friends. I agreed to be the bridesmaid. It was during COVID and restrictions would only allow a certain number of guests. I asked if she was going to invite my partner if numbers increased. She said she didn't think numbers would increase and they were under pressure for numbers, etc. Shortly before the wedding, I arranged a lunch for the bride with another friend, and I had a nice gift for her. A week before that, she disclosed to us that she had been pregnant for 11 weeks, but had just had a miscarriage. I was really nervous. I was nervous about seeing her for the lunch, as I didn't know how it would be, as she does not express emotions much, and I was also feeling bad about the wedding. A few days later, she sent me a text saying she expected more from one of her closest friends and that I had no empathy for her. I replied saying I planned the lunch and I did have empathy. I didn't call her and I didn't get into it with her as I didn't want to argue, but this gave me real anxiety. Soon after that, it was her hen party. I think that's the British word for a bridal shower. I was dreading it. I went and one of her other friends was acting quite cold toward me, but I just got on with it. I was very uncomfortable. My partner was not invited to the wedding, although my friend did text me and say he could come to the after party, that no one would notice the numbers at that point. I didn't think that would be appropriate, and I felt it was an insult. He didn't come to the after party, and 3 people asked me if he was coming later, and I just said no. I had no car. The wedding was 2 hours from where we live. The wedding was horrible, and I felt bad about myself. Worst of all, I'm still upset about this whole thing. It has really taken a toll on me. I kind of feel like a drama queen, like I should get over it. The wedding was like the Twilight Zone for me. It just felt so fake and wrong, and I just felt, does anyone else not see how disrespectful this is? I'm angry at myself for going, but I said I would be the bridesmaid. Please, Crappy Childhood Fairy, if you have any helpful advice, I would really appreciate it. Fiona. Okay, Fiona. Wow, I am so sorry that you had this whole experience. I think I relate to it. I think a lot of people here will have some frame of reference for what this is like. And so what I want to do is I just want to go over parts of your letter again and just kind of see what happened here, okay? First, you told us about your childhood where you were abused, then you made wrong turns, you had bad relationships, you let other people treat you badly, you experienced eating disorders, which often comes out of all that negativity as well, and self-sabotage, the works. And you say that with an exclamation point with some good cheer, so I hope that means that you've become lighter-hearted about what happened. But you know, you're just like all of us. It affects you, right? It gives you some wounds. So you've worked on yourself, you have a career you love, and a healthy relationship. So right there, just hugs, Fiona. That's very well done. And I'm proud of you, and you have a good foundation now to keep learning. So here we are. So you have the childhood friend since you were 15, and you think she may be codependent because something I said about being hurt by a friend's false concern. And yeah, that is, sometimes that's a sort of passive aggressive or codependent thing to say, I'm really concerned about you, and then say a criticism, but pretend it's concern. So I'm not hearing a reference to this in this story of false concern, but I think you're saying that about your friend. So you think she might be codependent. I suspect you might have a little bit of a wobbly definition of codependent, and I'll tell you why in a minute. All right. You feel that your friend doesn't know her place with you and feels it's okay to give her input to things that are not her business. So I think what you're saying there is you would like to have boundaries around people giving their opinion about things, but you don't have them. And she does not follow common courtesy to not give unsolicited advice, okay? And then you feel bad because you don't stand up for yourself. So, okay, good spot there. All right, recently she asked you to be her bridesmaid, and that is just really weird that you don't consider you two to be close. She keeps saying you're her best friend. I just can't help but think, does she not have any close friends? Because if she mistakes you for a close friend, somebody who, from everything I'm reading here, you don't actually like her that much, it's really just kind of a legacy friendship. If that's all she's got, I'm guessing she's got some trauma that's driving her too. So I don't know, you didn't mention that, but having to ask somebody who doesn't like you to be your bridesmaid is a very CPTSD thing to do. And in fact, the self-centeredness of then sort of expecting you to do all the work of a bridesmaid and play the role and make the wedding look like a complete deck of cards, but not get to invite your boyfriend, that kind of self-centeredness, like a lot of people are going to say that's a narcissist, maybe, or it's a narcissistic trait in a person with CPTSD, because that is what we do when we're not healed, is we think of ourselves. It's really normal. I want to make it safe for all of us to admit when we're being self-centered and selfish. Because the tough love thing here, Fiona, is I think a little bit you did that. And I don't think it's obvious how you did it, so I'm going to explain how you did that. Okay, so she's had a fake understanding of the meaning of your friendship with her. And that part where she tells you, like a week before the special lunch that you arranged, where she tells you she's been pregnant for almost 3 months and that she's just lost this baby. Yes, that would be very weird to have that sprung on you. But honestly, it's normal to wait that long to tell people that you're pregnant. And it's necessary sometimes to tell them that a tragedy has happened, even when there's supposed to be this nice lunch and the timing is really terrible. That's what was going on in her life. So I'm sort of thinking we should hand her that. And I can't tell from your letter, so this may be tough love. That's like really tough. But I'm not sure that you were able to hear the gravity of what she told you. I think that might be why she perceived you as not having empathy. I'm sure you have empathy. But a miscarriage can be a very big, heart-wrenching thing. And I'm not trying to take her side or tell you that you're bad or anything, but just that I heard in your reaction that so much stress came up for you, and how are you supposed to handle this situation, which would be a normal sort of crisis for a person that still has some CPTSD that's getting triggered, that you maybe you weren't able to show her the amount of empathy that would be just kind of like a normal amount. So it's totally fair that this was a tough situation for you. But it made you angry that she was disappointed that you weren't a better friend. And she's this person who apparently doesn't have a better friend than you, and she's tried to mock one up by asking you to be the bridesmaid, and that's a very difficult situation to put you in. And unfortunately, you can't really simulate a close friend just by giving them responsibility. But sometimes life throws you a curveball, and the person in front of you has had something terrible happen, which she had, and whoever is handy in their lives is called on in that moment by the suffering person and the situation to step up. So I think it's possible there that was hurtful to her because you weren't able to show up. Okay, so that's for you to decide if that's true for you. And yes, when she just sort of blithely was like, oh, and no invitation for your boyfriend after all. Yes, that sounds like it could have been, that was very selfish, I think. Inconsiderate. It sounds like there was very little communication around it. You had asked if restrictions loosened, if he could come, and she thought it wouldn't, and then it wasn't dealt with. So yeah, that's weird. I imagine she was probably under a lot of stress about trying to plan the wedding. And I know when I got married, we ended up with a very limited number of people who we could have at the reception. And I had to not invite people who totally thought, of course, they'd be invited. And if I had it to do all over again, I would do that so differently. And I would have a big, easy reception where as many people as we wanted could come, and not have this thing that was prohibitive because of cost and space and everything. But at the time, I just didn't know. A lot of stuff was coming up for me around getting married. And if your friend has had trauma, a lot of stuff is coming up for her around getting married. Trust me, it's very intense. You know, it always looks from a distance like it's this incredible victory and it's so great, but that's a lot of what the sort of like pomp of weddings is. It's like, it's so great, it's so great. And in reality, people are going through a great deal, and they're scared and they're stressed, and a lot of feelings of inadequacy come up. So I don't think everybody can always think on their toes. I don't think what she did is good, but I'm not surprised that she wasn't able to, like, you know, treat you in a very considerate manner in that moment. When you are mad at yourself for not speaking up, by the way, I would say, be mad at yourself for saying yes in the first place. But when you committed to that whole thing, you did a good thing by not speaking up at the reception. That was not the time. If your friendship survives with her and she wants to know someday, like, what happened there? Why were you so mad at me? What happened? I just don't understand. And you tell her, I just recommend you tell her in the kindest possible way that you wanted so much to be there, but you kind of knew on some level that you weren't able to at that time do the job properly. And so you apologize for saying yes when you couldn't do the job properly. And I just out of generosity of spirit, I just wouldn't take her to task for any of it. Don't fault her that she picked somebody that's not really her close friend. There's basically, like, anything you say about this is just going to hurt her. And I don't think there's any point in just hurting people, because you have the freedom to leave this relationship if it's so bad for you. If you want to stay in it, take care of that person a little bit. Not everything needs to be expressed. Take care of the boundaries that you need to have, okay? So you did a lot of suffering in silence at this wedding. And that might have been better than disappointing her and bailing on the wedding at the last minute, but maybe not. And I think when we're that angry about something and simply not into helping somebody, it can be the most honest and loving thing to step away. Yes, even if that means that she had to go without a bridesmaid or find someone else to do it. I don't think that's good to quit the job midway, but bringing resentment to anyone's wedding is just hurtful. And I know you didn't want to do it. I know that's why you felt trapped. And the thing that you couldn't see is that you still had an option. And why exercising that option could have actually been the most loving thing to do is because it gave her the option of rearranging things so that somebody who was more willing to do the job and felt good about it and excited about it could take the job. And you see how that could be better? So your honesty, while it's awkward in the moment and it takes a lot of courage to say no to somebody in the moment, it's actually loving and helpful to go ahead and be honest about where things really are. You are a good person for trying. I just want to hug you because you didn't want to disappoint her. You wanted to be kind in that way, and that was nice. But now as a kid who was traumatized and who didn't get taught these things, you get to learn now that, just saying yes to people to make them feel good in the moment, there can be a high price to pay for both people. So yeah, you did a lot of things right. You met with her, you supported her, you arranged a lunch, you showed up all by yourself to the wedding, you put on a brave face, and there's only one thing you did wrong, and it's just saying yes in the first place, out of the best intentions. That's all. That's all that you have to dwell on. And I think the reason you keep thinking about this is you know that somewhere there's something you did wrong, and that's what it is. That's what it is. It's a risk. We're risking making someone's wedding uncomfortable for them, or anxious, so that we do that because we tell ourselves it's for their sake, right? That we don't want them to be disappointed. But the real reason we're doing it, if we're going to be tough love about it, is we don't want to have the pain of saying no. We don't want to have that shame and discomfort of being the person who says no. It's uncomfortable. We don't know how people are going to react. Abuse and neglect in childhood conditioned us so well to not risk getting anyone mad at us that we end up with a really distorted idea of how to be a good person. We just abandon ourselves and think that's going to work. But it doesn't, does it? So good. And just to get a basic working definition of a good person here, a good person does serve and support others and takes care of himself or herself enough that what they give to others is given freely, happily, generously, not resentfully. Sometimes there's duty, but this is not a situation where you had a duty to say yes at the beginning. So for you, Fiona, perhaps one day you can heal your relationship with this friend and let her know that you see better what happened and you're sorry about the stress. Don't tell her that you never wanted to be a bridesmaid. That may be true, but it only risks that she'll be hurt and ashamed. And why do that to her? She asked, you said yes. Asking you was a little crazy on her part, and she sounds kind of self-centered. But you said yes, so she hasn't really done anything wrong. Now, obviously, this experience kicked up some very sticky anger for you. This is so normal for people who were abused and neglected in childhood, as you were. And I encourage you not to express any of this to your friend. It sounds like she's already in a tough place, and if she doesn't have friends, it's quite possible that her marriage is a bit wobbly too. She's going to have quite a journey to go through. So if you can, if you're willing, just let her off the hook. You can use your anger and this feeling of being stuck, ruminating about what happened, to get clear about what happened inside you, especially ways that you can change for next time that you have a friend or you get asked to do something that you don't want to do. The goal is to learn to be more comfortably and kindly willing to say no when people ask you for huge favors or presume closeness from you that isn't real. So in all the letters I get, I sure see a pattern that for people who were neglected as kids, there's this tendency toward relationships where something isn't real. It's as if you didn't get treated like you were real, and now you end up in situations that are in fact not quite real. And the substance isn't there, the meaning. And for this reason, it's a profound and wonderful thing that you're healing. Feeling hurt and discouraged about these experiences when you're working on healing yourself can make sad times into really fruitful times of growth and realization. So hang in there, Fiona. You're figuring things out in the realm of boundaries. You have your whole life ahead of you to have things go better because you know who you are and what you want, and you are able to express it. Now, if those of you watching want to hear a little more about what I teach around boundaries, here's a video I've got lined up for you, and I will see you very soon.